December 1944. A Marine Corps regulation explicitly prohibited the weapon. Too long, too heavy, too impractical for jungle warfare. Staff Sergeant Daniel Kovacs kept it anyway, hidden beneath his bunk in a canvas wrap. The 30-06 Springfield with the 8-power inertial scope measured 46 inches, longer than most men were tall. Officers called it a fence post. Oh. But on a moonless night in the Philippines, when 8 Japanese officers gathered for a strategy meeting 300 yards from American lines, Kovacs would prove that sometimes the most impractical weapon becomes the most indispensable. Quantico, Virginia, March 1943. The Marine Corps Marksmanship Training Unit operated from a cluster of wooden buildings overlooking the rifle ranges where the Potomac River curved through low hills. Inside Building 12, Major William Brophy held the Springfield rifle at arm's length, examining it with the skepticism of a man who'd spent 20 years believing in standardization. 46 inches, Sergeant Kovacs. 46 inches. Brophy's voice carried the flat certainty of bureaucratic disapproval. The standard M1903 measures 43 inches. The M1 Garand we're issuing to every rifleman measures 43.5. You've built yourself a weapon that won't fit in any standard rack, won't clear any doorway without telegraphing your position, and weighs 13 pounds before you mount that telescope. Daniel Kovacs stood at attention, his Wisconsin accent barely detectable after 4 years in the Corps. 26 years old, lean from farm work and rifle competition, he'd joined in 1939 because Depression-era dairy farming offered no future. The Marines offered 3 meals and the chance to shoot competitively. He'd discovered he possessed the gift, the ability to read wind that separated weekend shooters from true marksmen. Sir, the barrel length provides velocity consistency at extended range. The scope mount requires additional receiver length for proper eye relief. The weight dampens recoil for rapid follow-up shots. Kovacs' explanation emerged with the precision of someone who'd spent 8 months perfecting every specification. Brophy set the rifle on his desk with exaggerated care. Through the window, the percussion of rifle fire rolled across the ranges, the distinctive crack of .32-06 ammunition, the backbone of American marksmanship since 1906. March, sunlight caught the scope's objective lens, throwing a small bright circle on the office wall. The Corps is transitioning to the M1, semi-automatic. 8 rounds. Modern warfare, Sergeant. We're not fighting from trenches anymore. We're landing on beaches under fire, clearing bunkers, fighting through jungles. Your fence post might be magnificent for punching paper at 600 yards, but war isn't a shooting match. The door opened. Captain James Turner entered without knocking, the privilege of an officer who'd earned the Navy Cross at Guadalcanal. He moved with the slight limp of a man who'd taken shrapnel in his left leg and refused medical discharge. Major, I need Kovacs. Turner's voice carried command authority that didn't require volume. We have a problem on Leyte that conventional rifles can't solve. Brophy's expression shifted from bureaucratic certainty to professional interest. Explain. Japanese officers conducting nighttime strategy sessions at extreme range from our observation posts, 300 to 400 yards. Darkness conceals their exact positions until they light cigarettes or use flashlights. By the time our Browning crews identify targets and open fire, they've dispersed. Intelligence reports these sessions are coordinating mortar attacks that killed 47 Marines last week. We need precision elimination, not suppressive fire. Turner placed a folder on Brophy's desk. Sergeant Kovacs holds the Marine Corps record for long-range shooting, 20 consecutive hits at 600 yards in wind. He's built a rifle optimized for exactly this type of engagement. I'm requesting deployment authorization. Brophy opened the folder, scanning reconnaissance photographs showing terrain maps marked with Japanese positions. The images revealed jungle ridgelines, clearings, and distance calculations written in pencil. The rifle doesn't meet specifications. Specifications don't win wars, sir. Results do. Kovac's rifle might be impractical for standard infantry operations, but this isn't a standard operation. This is targeted elimination of enemy command structure. Turner's tone carried the edge of someone who'd watched too many Marines die from preventable causes. The Major studied Kovac for a long moment. Outside, a whistle blew, range officers calling ceasefire. The percussion stopped, replaced by the distant sound of targets being scored. "One condition, Sergeant. You take that fence post to war, you prove its worth. If you miss, if that rifle fails, if impracticality costs lives, you answer for it, personally." "Understood, sir." Dismissed. "Report to Turner for deployment briefing." Kovac retrieved his rifle, the walnut stock warm from the sunlight streaming through the window. The unearthly scope, hand-lapped lenses ground to tolerances measured in 10,000ths of an inch, had cost him 3 months of pay. The barrel, custom-made by a gunsmith in Pennsylvania, had required another 2 months of salary. The rifle represented financial sacrifice that farm boy mathematics understood perfectly. Precision costs money, but saving lives has infinite value. Turner led him across the compound toward the intelligence section. "You'll ship out Thursday. 72 hours to put your affairs in order. The Japanese officers we're targeting aren't random casualties. They're coordinating mortar fire that's systematically destroying our supply lines. Every night they operate, more Marines die." "What's the operational window, sir?" "New moon phase begins Friday, 4 nights of maximum darkness. After that, moonlight makes the approach impossible. You'll have one chance to prove that fence post is worth its weight." "Ooh." Inside the intelligence building, maps covered every wall, overlapping photographs showing jungle terrain marked with Japanese positions, American observation posts, and elevation data. A lieutenant, barely 22, fresh from officer school, stood beside a large topographical map marked with red circles. "Sergeant Kovac, I'm Lieutenant Morrison, intelligence liaison. The target zone is here." He indicated a ridge 320 yards from the nearest American position. Japanese officers gather in this clearing at approximately 2200 hours. Smoking breaks, map consultations, radio communications, brief exposure, never more than 30 seconds per individual. Darkness prevents visual identification of rank, but movement patterns and bodyguard presence confirm officer status. Morrison produced a leather-bound notebook filled with hand-drawn sketches. "We've documented 7 previous sessions. Average attendance, 6 to 10 officers. They arrive in groups, discuss strategy, then disperse. Our problem is engagement time. By the time machine gun crews acquire targets, they're gone. Mortar fire is too slow. We need immediate, precise elimination." Kovac studied the maps, his mind automatically calculating angles, wind deflection, and bullet trajectory. 320 yards represented an easy shot under daylight conditions with prepared positions. Darkness transformed easy into nearly impossible. Visibility conditions: minimal, jungle canopy blocks ambient light. Targets visible only when they illuminate themselves. Cigarettes, flashlights, brief moments of exposure. You'll be shooting at transient light sources in complete darkness. Ammunition: M2 ball, 172 grain. Federal manufacture, lot tested for consistency. You'll have 20 rounds. That's your operational limit. 20 rounds. 8 targets minimum. 12 rounds margin for misses, corrections, and unexpected complications. The mathematics of precision warfare reduced to simple arithmetic. Turner placed a hand on Kovac's shoulder. "Your country is asking you to do something extremely difficult, Sergeant. Take an unauthorized weapon into combat conditions specifically to prove that bucking regulations sometimes saves lives. Are you prepared for that responsibility?" Kovac thought of the 47 Marines killed by coordinated mortar attacks. He thought of the officers planning those attacks, confident in their safety behind distance and darkness. He thought of the rifle he'd built, the fence post that didn't fit regulations but fit perfectly against his shoulder. "Yes, sir, I'm ready." Dol Leyte, Philippines, December 8, 1944. The LST transport grounded on Leyte's beach at dawn, ramp dropping onto volcanic sand mixed with coral fragments that crunched underfoot like broken glass. Kovacs descended carrying his rifle wrapped in canvas, the M1911 pistol on his hip, representing the only standard-issue weapon he possessed. Around him, Marines moved supplies inland, ammunition crates, ration boxes, medical supplies, and the endless material requirements of modern warfare. The beach smelled of salt, diesel fuel, and the distinctive odor of tropical jungle, rot and growth intertwined. Inland, artillery rumbled, American 155s firing harassment missions at Japanese positions. The percussion arrived delayed, sound lagging behind the visual flash by seconds that represented miles. Captain Turner waited beside a jeep, his face showing the gauntness of someone who'd spent too many weeks in combat zones where sleep became luxury. "Welcome to Leyte, Sergeant. Your operational area is 12 miles inland. We've prepared a forward observation post overlooking the target zone. Transport leaves in 30 minutes. The drive inland followed roads carved through jungle by bulldozers, temporary pathways that would become mud channels when the afternoon rains arrived. They passed artillery positions, supply depots, and field hospitals marked with red crosses painted on tent canvas. Marines in fighting positions tracked their progress, rifles ready. The automatic vigilance of men who'd learned that complacency killed. The forward command post occupied a ridgeline offering observation across 3 valleys. Sandbags, camouflage netting, and firing positions transformed natural terrain into military infrastructure. Radio operators worked beneath shelter halves, coordinating fire missions in voices flattened by exhaustion. Lieutenant Colonel Parker commanded the sector, 43 years old. West Point graduate, veteran of peacetime Marine Corps, who'd adapted to war through competence and brutal pragmatism. He met Kovacs outside the command bunker, examining the rifle with professional interest. "The fence post. I've read the reports. 46 inches of precision engineering that doesn't fit doctrine." Parker's tone carried neither approval nor disapproval, merely assessment. "Your target zone is 320 yards northeast. For 7 consecutive nights, Japanese officers have gathered there at approximately 2200 hours. They illuminate themselves briefly. Cigarettes, flashlights, map reading. Intelligence believes they're coordinating mortar attacks that have killed 63 Marines this week." Parker led Kovacs to an observation post, a fortified position overlooking the valley, where jungle gave way to a cleared ridge. Through binoculars, the target area revealed itself as a natural gathering space, relatively flat ground, surrounded by vegetation providing concealment. "Your shooting position is here. Sandbag rest, clear field of fire, concealment from counter-sniper operations. Wind typically runs east to west, approximately 5 to 7 miles per hour. Temperature drops 10 degrees after sunset. Humidity remains constant at 85%. Factor that into your scope adjustments." A corporal, 19 years old from Alabama by his accent, manned the observation post. He'd watched the Japanese officers through 7 sessions, documenting their patterns in a notebook filled with precise handwriting. "Sir, they arrive between 21:45 and 22:15, usually groups of 2 or 3. They gather for discussions lasting 10 to 15 minutes. Bodyguards remain in perimeter positions. Officers expose themselves when consulting maps or lighting cigarettes. Longest exposure I've timed was 42 seconds. Shortest was 8 seconds. Kovacs studied the terrain, his mind building the 3-dimensional map that separated competent shooters from masters. Wind would push bullets right. He'd need to hold left. Humidity would slow bullet velocity marginally. He'd need to compensate with elevation. Darkness would eliminate conventional sight picture. He'd be shooting at light sources, trusting muscle memory and experience. "What happens after first shot?" Parker's expression showed grim satisfaction. "That's where your fence post proves its worth or condemns it. First shot, they'll scatter. Second shot must come before they reach cover, approximately 4 to 5 seconds. After that, they'll stay concealed until they believe the threat has passed. Your operational window is initial target exposure and immediate follow-up." The afternoon passed in preparation. Kovacs established his shooting position, sandbags stacked to provide solid rest for the rifle's forearm. He verified scope adjustments, checked ammunition, and mentally rehearsed the sequence. Target identification, breath control, trigger press, immediate follow-up. The M19903 Springfield bolt required practiced manipulation to achieve rapid second shots. At 1800 hours, rain arrived, the daily tropical downpour that transformed everything into mud and dampness. It lasted 47 minutes, then stopped with the abruptness of a switched valve. Steam rose from jungle vegetation, and the temperature dropped as evening approached. Turner appeared with ration containers, reconstituted beef, crackers, and coffee that tasted like diesel fuel but provided caffeine. Eat, stay hydrated. The waiting is worse than the shooting. Darkness fell at 1930, jungle sounds replacing daylight activity. Insects created wall of sound, clicking, buzzing, and the occasional shriek of nocturnal birds. In the distance, artillery continued its sporadic percussion, American and Japanese batteries trading fire like deadly conversation. At 2100 hours, Kovacs settled into position, rifle resting on sandbags, body prone, breathing controlled. The Gunertal scope gathered what little ambient light existed, but the target zone remained black. No moon, no stars, only darkness broken occasionally by distant artillery flashes. 2148. Movement in the target zone, barely perceptible shifts in darkness that indicated human presence. Kovacs' finger rested beside the trigger guard, waiting for illumination that would transform darkness into target. 2152. A flashlight beam, brief, focused downward at what appeared to be a map. The light provided momentary illumination of two figures hunched over the paper. Distance, 321 yards by previous ranging. Wind, 6 miles per hour right to left. Temperature, 78 degrees. Humidity, 85%. Kovacs didn't shoot. Patience represented the difference between snipers and riflemen. He waited. 2203. Cigarette lighter. Distinctive smell of tobacco carried on the wind. Another figure standing slightly apart. The small flame illuminated a face for perhaps 3 seconds. Japanese officer, field cap, discussing something with animated gestures. Still, Kovacs waited. His instructions specified 8 targets. Shooting too early would compromise the mission. 2207. Multiple flashlights. Apparently a larger group arriving. The lights swept across the clearing, briefly illuminating 6 figures gathered around what appeared to be tactical maps. One gestured toward American positions, arm extended in direction that indicated attack planning. 8 targets in the zone, the Alabama corporal whispered. This is it. Kovacs' world contracted to scope image, crosshair placement, and trigger control. The first target, officer with flashlight, stood relatively still, attention focused on map consultation. Range, 321 yards. Wind correction, 1 minute of angle left. Elevation confirmed. The crosshair settled on center mass. Kovacs' breathing slowed, in through nose, out through mouth, pause at natural respiratory pause. His finger moved to trigger, taking up the slight slack that preceded firing. The rifle fired with sharp crack that shattered jungle quiet. Through the scope, Kovacs saw the flashlight drop, the figure collapsing. He worked the bolt, brass ejecting, fresh round chambering, with the speed of 10,000 practice repetitions. 4 seconds elapsed. Second target. Another officer turning toward the fallen comrade. The scope's crosshair found center mass. Second shot. The figure dropped. Bolt manipulation. Brass ejecting. Fresh round. 6 seconds total elapsed. Third target running toward cover. Leading shot. Aim where target would be when bullet arrived. The mathematics of interception calculated through muscle memory. Third shot. Target down. Bolt worked. 7 seconds. The Japanese officers scattered like disturbed insects, seeking cover in darkness that had protected them for 7 previous nights. But darkness couldn't stop bullets guided by precision. Fourth target, partially concealed behind vegetation. Kovac aimed at visible portion, trusting bullet penetration through light cover. Fourth shot. Movement stopped. 9 seconds. Fifth and sixth targets moving together. First shot, lead target down. Bolt manipulation. Second shot, trailing target falling. 11 seconds from first shot. 2 targets remained, both reaching cover positions. Kovac waited, controlling breathing, maintaining position. Movement, 1 target shifting position, apparently attempting to locate the source of fire. Brief exposure, perhaps 2 seconds. 7th shot, target down, final target completely concealed. Kovac waited with patience, learned from deer hunting in Wisconsin woods, where motion meant death. 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 1 minute. Movement, the final officer apparently attempting escape through jungle cover. Flash of motion, barely visible. Kovac led the movement, calculating trajectory through vegetation. 8th shot, movement stopped. Silence returned except for jungle sounds and distant artillery. 8 shots, 8 targets, 13 seconds from first shot to 6th. The fence post rifle had proven its worth in the calculus, where precision eliminated enemy command structure. Parker appeared at the observation post, binoculars trained on target zone. All targets down, no movement. Intelligence teams will confirm in morning, but preliminary assessment indicates 8 Japanese officers eliminated in single engagement. Outstanding shooting, Sergeant. The Japanese Forward Command, 12 miles northeast, December 9th, 1944. Major Takeshi Yamamoto stood in the underground command bunker studying reconnaissance reports with growing incomprehension. The maps showed American positions that hadn't changed significantly, standard defensive postures, conventional artillery deployment. Nothing indicated sophisticated long-range precision capability. Explain this. Yamamoto's finger tapped the casualty report, listing 8 officers eliminated in 13 seconds during darkness at extreme range. 8 officers, simultaneous conference. Targeted elimination with precision that suggests direct observation and immediate engagement. American automatic weapons lack accuracy at 300 meters. Artillery requires minutes for fire mission coordination. This represents capability we haven't encountered. Captain Hiroshi Tanaka, intelligence officer educated at Tokyo Imperial University, where he'd studied American military doctrine, responded with careful precision. Sir, American standard infantry weapons include M1 Garand rifle, effective to 400 meters, Browning automatic rifle with similar range, and crew-served machine guns. None possess precision accuracy at extended range during darkness. Their military doctrine emphasizes volume of fire over individual marksmanship. Yamamoto examined photographs recovered from previous reconnaissance, American positions showing standard fortifications, conventional deployments, nothing suggesting specialized sniper operations. The Americans fought with overwhelming material superiority, not tactical sophistication. 8 officers eliminated suggests 8 shooters coordinating fire, but sound analysis indicates single weapon, bolt-action rifle, by the distinctive report pattern. 1 shooter, 8 targets, 13 seconds. The mathematics contradicted everything Japanese intelligence understood about American military capability. A lieutenant entered, carrying decoded American radio intercepts. Sir, intelligence captured American communications referencing fence post rifle and single Marine designated for precision elimination operations. Translation suggests specialized weapon outside standard doctrine. 1 Marine, 1 rifle, 8 trained officers eliminated before they could seek cover. Yamamoto's tone carried disbelief, warring with factual evidence. This contradicts American doctrine, emphasizing standardization and volume of fire. Tanaka consulted his notes, careful documentation of American military philosophy compiled from captured manuals and pre-war intelligence. American military training emphasizes rapid fire, large unit tactics, and overwhelming application of firepower. Individual marksmanship beyond standard ranges isn't emphasized in their doctrine. They lack the tradition of specialized precision shooting. Then explain how one American eliminated 8 officers at extreme range during complete darkness. Silence answered. The underground bunker, reinforced concrete built by labor conscripted from local populations, offered protection from American artillery, but no defense against incomprehension. Yamamoto had spent 20 years in military service, believing that Japanese tactical sophistication would overcome American material advantage. Individual initiative, night operations expertise, and Bushido spirit represented Japanese advantages. A single American rifleman had negated those assumptions. Issue immediate orders. All officer conferences relocated to positions beyond 400 meters from American observation posts. Meetings conducted without illumination, no flashlights, no cigarettes, no exposed light sources. Bodyguard protocols revised to include counter-sniper procedures. And find this fence post rifle. Nah, the orders distributed through communication networks. Runners carrying written instructions through jungle trails where radio transmissions risked American interception. Japanese positions adjusted, command meetings relocated, operational procedures modified to counter threat that shouldn't exist according to doctrine. But American capability had exceeded Japanese intelligence assessment. The fence post rifle represented deviation from expected patterns, individualized equipment, specialized training, tactical employment outside standard doctrine. Japanese planning had prepared for conventional American warfare, not improvised excellence. Yamamoto studied topographical maps showing American positions. Somewhere in those ridgelines, a Marine with a non-standard rifle represented greater threat than entire infantry companies. The calculus of warfare had shifted from unit-level tactics to individual precision. Increase counter-sniper patrols. Deploy observation teams to locate American shooting positions. If we cannot eliminate this threat, we must force him to relocate constantly, denying him prepared positions. Yamamoto's orders reflected adaptation. If Japanese doctrine couldn't prevent American precision, it would force American marksmen into conditions where precision became impossible. The underground command bunker returned to routine operations, casualty reports, supply requisitions, tactical planning, but the incomprehension remained. Unanswered question that undermined doctrinal certainty. One American, one rifle, 8 officers. The mathematics suggested capability Japanese intelligence hadn't anticipated, doctrine couldn't explain, and field commanders couldn't effectively counter. Outside, rain began again, daily tropical downpour that turned everything to mud. In the darkness and precipitation, Japanese forces adjusted to new reality, where command meetings required protocols designed against threat that existed beyond standard American capability. The fence post rifle had transformed tactical landscape, not through overwhelming firepower, but through precision that doctrine declared impossible. Marine Corps Base, Quantico, Virginia, October 1955. The small ceremony occurred in the same building where Major Brophy had questioned the fence post rifle 12 years earlier. Staff Sergeant Daniel Kovac, now civilian Daniel Kovac, 41 years old, dairy farmer from Wisconsin, stood uncomfortable in dress uniform borrowed for the occasion. Time and farming had thickened his build, but the hands remained steady. Hands that could still milk cows at dawn and shoot targets at 600 yards. Colonel James Turner, now Deputy Commander of the Marine Corps Training Command, held a wooden case containing the Springfield rifle. The unertal scope still gathered light with hand-lapped precision, though the stock showed wear from jungle operations. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to formally recognize a weapon that didn't meet specifications, but met every requirement that mattered. Turner's voice carried authority earned through decades of service. In December 1944, Sergeant Kovac deployed to Leyte with this rifle, unauthorized, overweight, impractically long. In 7 nights of operations, he eliminated 23 Japanese officers coordinating mortar attacks that had killed 63 Marines. After his operations, mortar-related casualties dropped 87%. The audience, Marine officers, historians, and ballistics experts, studied the rifle with professional interest. 46 inches, 13 pounds. The fence post that had proved more valuable than standardization. Intelligence analysis conducted after Japanese surrender revealed captured documents detailing their confusion. Japanese commanders couldn't comprehend how American doctrine, which they understood as emphasizing volume over precision, produced individual marksmen capable of eliminating multiple targets at extreme range during darkness. They revised tactical procedures, relocated command meetings, and implemented counter-sniper protocols, all because one Marine proved that sometimes the impractical weapon becomes indispensable. Turner opened the case, removing the rifle with ceremonial care. This weapon violated regulations. It exceeded weight limits. It didn't fit standard racks or doctrine. But it saved lives through precision when volume of fire would have failed. Today, the Marine Corps formally recognizes that innovation sometimes requires accepting deviation from standards. Kovac accepted the rifle, the familiar weight settling against his shoulder with muscle memory that transcended years. The walnut stock, worn smooth by jungle operations and careful maintenance, felt like meeting an old friend. "Sir, I built this rifle because I believed precision saves lives. Every bullet that hits target means fewer Marines exposed to return fire. The Corps taught me marksmanship. I just applied those lessons with equipment optimized for the mission." A captain from the historical division approached with documentation. "Mr. Kovac, we've compiled operational analysis from Leyte. Your precision operations eliminated Japanese command structure coordinating attacks that intelligence estimated would have caused 200 additional American casualties. The fence post rifle's legacy isn't measured in targets eliminated, it's measured in Marines who came home." The ceremony concluded with the rifle formally inducted into the Marine Corps Museum collection, documentation of the weapon that bucked regulations and validated innovation. Photographers captured images, Kovac holding the rifle, Turner explaining its specifications, historians examining the scope that had gathered light through 7 nights of precision operations. Afterward, Kovac stood alone with the weapon, remembering darkness and discipline, fear and focus, the weight of responsibility that came with precision capability. The fence post had been ridiculed, questioned, nearly prohibited. But when doctrine failed and conventional approaches couldn't solve the problem, the impractical weapon had become essential. A young lieutenant approached, 23 years old, fresh from training where standardization represented gospel. "Sir, can I ask a question?" "I'm not sir anymore, Lieutenant. I'm a dairy farmer who occasionally shoots competitively." "How did you know the rifle would work? When they called it impractical, when regulations prohibited it, how did you maintain confidence?" Kovac studied the Springfield, running his hand along the barrel that had cost 3 months of pay to custom manufacture. "Because I understood the mission requirements better than the people writing regulations. Bureaucracy optimizes for average conditions. War demands capability for extreme situations. Sometimes you need a fence post rifle, even when doctrine says you don't." The lieutenant nodded with comprehension that suggested he'd remember the lesson. "One more thing, Lieutenant. This rifle saved lives, not because it violated regulations, but because it solved a specific problem conventional weapons couldn't address. Innovation isn't about breaking rules for the sake of breaking them. It's about understanding when rules prevent solutions. Learn the difference." 10 years later, the Marine Corps would formalize precision marksmanship programs, develop standardized sniper rifles, and incorporate long-range precision fire into doctrine. But in December 1944, those programs didn't exist. Only one Marine with a fence post rifle, proving that American military excellence sometimes emerged not from following doctrine, but from individuals willing to deviate from it when lives hung in the balance. Kovacs returned the rifle to its display case, the weapon finding permanent home among artifacts documenting Marine Corps history. The fence post would remain there, testimony to the principle that regulations serve missions, not the other way around. That sometimes the impractical solution becomes the only solution. That American ingenuity, determination, and individual excellence can overcome any doctrinal limitation. Outside Quantico, the afternoon sun illuminated rifle ranges where Marines continued training, firing standard weapons according to established doctrine. Most would never face situations requiring deviation from regulations, but some would encounter problems conventional solutions couldn't solve. And those Marines would remember the fence post rifle, the weapon ridiculed until it saved lives, questioned until it proved indispensable, prohibited until one sergeant demonstrated that sometimes individual excellence matters more than institutional standardization. Daniel Kovacs drove home to Wisconsin, back to dairy farming and occasional competition shooting. The fence post rifle remained at Quantico, its legacy written not in citations or medals, but in statistics. 87% reduction in mortar casualties, 200 Marines estimated saved, 23 Japanese officers eliminated. Numbers that represented husbands returning to wives, fathers meeting children, young men given opportunity to grow old. The impractical weapon had become indispensable. The fence post had justified its existence through precision when volume failed. And American military history had learned again what every generation must rediscover, that excellence sometimes requires accepting deviation from standards, that regulations serve missions rather than defining them, and that individual initiative backed by skill and determination remains America's greatest tactical advantage. If this story of American ingenuity and determination moved you, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss another untold story from the greatest generation. Drop a comment below. What forgotten hero from World War II should we cover next? These stories of ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things deserve to be remembered. Share this video with someone who appreciates military history and the spirit that made America the arsenal of democracy. Until next time, remember, freedom wasn't free. It was earned one fence post rifle at a time.